Tom Izzo, it's the same recipe year after year. He plays a tough out-of-conference schedule in November instead of, scheduling a bunch of cupcakes like so many coaches like to do. He gets his team, tournament ready, so that when March rolls around, they're ready to go. And here they are once again, in the Sweet 16. But I got a problem with this one, Andy. You know that I look at things and I always say that if I am going to side with guys that make lines for a living versus guys that do seedings and pairings and so forth, I'm always going to side with the lines makers. And this line to me is just screaming that they want the average Joe to bet Michigan State in this game. You look at Michigan State, they're the number 2 seed. They've been in, the top 10 all year. You know what Tom Izzo is at this time of the year. And this line is 3.5. All of the betting percentages are on Michigan State. And the line, for the most part, except at one or two rogue places, has been a solid 3.5. It just doesn't move. And when I see that, I'm generally going to line up on the underdog. Michigan State, 10-1 straight up their last 11 games. But let's be honest, the Big Ten is nowhere near as tough as what the SEC was on a night-to-night basis. And I am going to look at this one. Ole Miss is a senior-laden team. 7 of their top 8 players, based on minutes played per game, are seniors. And when you get to this time of the year, Andy, you want seniors on your roster, especially at the guard position handling the basketball. I think this one comes right down to the wire. And I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the 3.5 and look for another buzzer beater here. To me, again, like I said, it just looks too easy for me to take Michigan State. I'll be interested to see, later in the show when you talk to VR with the steam and stuff where his people are at. But for me, I'm on Ole Miss plus the points.
Yeah, I think you could also make the case maybe Ole Miss is a little bit more battle tested in this tournament. I feel like they've had the tougher games, leading into this. I mean, Michigan State, they're the 2 seed, so they got to beat a 15 seed and a 10 seed. Does that take you take that into account in handicapping, or is that much to do about nothing?
No, I like the teams that had the rougher road. I like teams that were in dogfight games as well, because to me that makes you, battle tested, so that whenever it does come up, you know how to handle a situation at the end of the game. You've already gone through that pressure of the final 2 minutes where every bucket means something. And, obviously, we referenced that Arkansas-Texas Tech game last night. You saw at the end of the game where, Arkansas kind of unraveled whenever, things were, when Texas Tech went on that run. So, I like Ole Miss in this one.
Marco D'Angelo, one of the co-founders of WagerTalk. Love hearing him break down these college basketball games. Let's move on to the next one. Kentucky and Tennessee. How do you break this game down?
Well, you look at this one, Tennessee, they've been one of the top teams, all year long, out of, as we just said, the toughest conference. Oh, they're playing another team out of the SEC. This will be the 3rd meeting, and it's very interesting because although Tennessee was 12-3 straight up over their last 15 games, guess what? They lost to Kentucky both meetings during the regular season. And I know we have the adage about, and it's a myth. I know Ralph's done charts before about it, how hard it is to beat a team 3 times in 1 year. What I look at is I look at the games on an individual basis. I look at those games and I do the who, what, and where when they played during the regular season. Was there any outliers in those games? And to me, there was an outlier in each of those meetings. And let's start with the first one. The first loss was on January 28th. Kentucky is a 10.5-point underdog, went into Tennessee and beat Tennessee 78-73. So you can say, all right, well, what can you possibly give an outlier out of that one? Well, if you go to the who, what, and where, and the who was, who did they play the game before? What happened? And then who do they play after that? Well, if you look, that game was immediately following when they played Auburn. Auburn was, number 1 team, number 2 team, basically all season long. They played Auburn the game before, and it was a dogfight, 53-51. You've heard me say, and I learned this phrase, from our, good friend, the late Dave Koken, a team can lose a game twice. When you have a big game and it's a tough game, you come up short. A lot of times the team will come back and they'll be flat in that next game. And that was what I felt happened in that meeting against Kentucky. Now let's fast forward to the second meeting. Yeah, Kentucky won again. That one was on their home floor. But look at the stats in that game. Kentucky played as good as you could play. They shot 50% from the field and 50% from three-point range. They were 12 of 24 from three. Tennessee had an absolute dismal night shooting. They were only 3 of 18 from three-point range. I don't see that kind of outlier happening again for a third time. I made the excuse for the first loss, and they just were ice cold, couldn't shoot the basketball in the ocean in the second meeting. I think Tennessee turns the table in this one. I'll go ahead and take Tennessee. I'll lay the 4.5 with Tennessee. And I'll just want to say one last thing, Andy. This is another thing I like to do sometimes when we're handicapping the games, where I told you I thought the Michigan State line was a little low, begging you to take Michigan State. And this one, I think the line is a little high on Tennessee, begging you to take Kentucky plus the points. Set these two games side by side. Michigan State's ranked. Mississippi isn't. This one, you've got two ranked teams, and you've got the favorite laying more, and they lost to this team twice this year. What is that smell that I smell? Is something is fishy here in these two games, and that's why I'm lining up on the dog and the favorite the way I am. Yeah, guys, you can pick up 7 days all access. That's everything I release. You're going to get all of my basketball. All baseball started. You'll get baseball. You'll get hockey, NBA along with the college, and you'll get any bonus plays that I have. And, then tomorrow, I think there's a big horse race going. Florida Derby goes tomorrow, so I'll probably have something for that for my all-access clients as well as we get ready and closer to the Kentucky Derby. And that's one of the biggest prep races for the Kentucky Derby. 7 days, normally $99. Use coupon code MD77. That's MD77. You'll get 7 days for $77 all plays. And yes, that will include any 5% plays that sell for $35 by themselves, 24 and 9 on our last 33 5% plays.